subnetting formula to calculate the number of subnet. How we can, if the formula is 2 raised to power n, mean how many bits you have borrowed from the host portion. If you borrowed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it will depends how many networks it will create. To calculate the number of subnet, or so similarly, if you making up room, this building into four or 2 or 3 or 4, it depends how many bits you have borrowed from the host portion. If you just borrow 1 bit, it will create 2 subnet, because 2 raised to power n, 2 raised to power 1 mean 2 network. If you borrow 2 bits, 2 raised to power 4, it create 4 subnets, sorry. Okay. And if you borrow 3, 8, it will create 8, because 2 raised to power 8 for 4, 2 raised to power 16. Okay. And 2 raised to power 13 and 64. So this is how you can further borrow, how many bits you can borrow. That's how it depends upon. To calculate the number of hosts, how you can calculate the number of hosts depends how many bits are left in the host portion. So for example, 2 raised to power 7, 128 hosts per subnet or per network, and valid -2. So keep in mind, whenever you borrow a bit, these 2 questions you need to answer. You borrowed 1 bit, the question will be, okay, in each network, how many networks you are going to create? The formula is 2 raised to power n. Okay. Okay. And to calculate each network, how many hosts it will have, the formula is 2 raised to power n -2, because we lose 2 IP, 1 network and 1 broadcast, always. And that is why you can see 2 raised to power 7 will be 128, -2 will be 126. So valid host in the bracket will be 126. Broadcast IP you cannot use, and the network ID you cannot use. So every time you do the subnetting, you will lose IP addresses. That's a drawback as well. One example, we know this formula now. Eight, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. Everybody should know that, right? So let's say I have a subnet, I have a network. Somebody has given me this network. Okay. What he's asking? He will be asking the question, number 1. Okay. How many numbers of subnet I will be getting? How many networks we will be creating? Each network or subnet, how many hosts it will have? Total number of usable IP and broadcast IP as well. So you need to calculate these things based on this. He just given you this IP. So in the exam, or maybe in the interview, they just give you this portion. That's it. They said, tell me how many networks we will be creating. Total number of hosts in each network you will be having. Usable IP. Okay. And the broadcast IP. Right? So how we can calculate that? So from this IP, first of all, how many bits we have borrowed? 2. So it's mean, so network, how many network? So formula is 2 raised to power n, mean 2 raised to power 2, which means 4 network. That's the question you need to ask yourself. Based on the subnet mask, you say, okay, we will now Just think about like there is a building, there's a block of building now equally distributed into 4 blocks. So we will be having total 4 network, total 4 subnet. Clear? Each sub, now the next formula, number of hosts. So 2 raised to power n minus 2. So for example, how many bits are left on the host portion now? 6. So 2 raised to power 6 minus 2. So will be 64 minus 2, 62. Each of them usable IP. That's clear? At least everybody is clear about that. The next question, each 62, we need to find out the network ID. The network ID. So my network will be this. Okay, look at this, it's the block. Look at the block. 64 plus 64 plus 64, 64. That will be total, will never exceed 256. So if you divide 256 into 4 portion, it will be 64, 64, 64, 64. Is that clear? 256 is your maximum number, 2 raised to power 8, right? 256 is the maximum number you have. When you divide them into the number of bits, actually you portion, it will give you 64. 64 plus 64, 128, plus 192 plus 64 will be 256. So the block will be 64. My next IP, this is the first, second, clear? Okay, and the third will be the fourth. Is it correct, sir? This is the block of 64. So you need to jump 64, 64, 64, 64. That will give you, this statement is now at this level 4 network. These are the 4 network. Now let's say one router who has 4 different interfaces, you can assign these subnet here. This will be 64, 62, 62, 62, 62 each, and the block was same. This was the block initially 192, 168, and somebody has given me, I subnetted into that. I designed my network. So networks are fine. Now we need to find the usable IP. How we can find the usable IP, sir?
The first and last.
Yeah, so that could be very simple. This will be 1 to 62. This will be 65 to, look at the 128. So 127 will be broadcast. Okay, so that will be 126. Okay, 129 to, because 128 we can't use. The next IP will be the usable to 190, 90, sorry, because 191 will be broadcast IP. Before the last IP, the 190 will be the broadcast IP, the last IP. Similarly here, 193 to 254, because 255 will be, so because broadcast IP. Here 191 will be the broadcast IP, here 127 will be the broadcast IP, here 63 is the broadcast IP. Yeah, I will show you in this as well. Look, this is the 2 bits we have borrowed. 2 bits we have borrowed. Exactly. 64, 128. Basically, one big house has been divided into 4 portions, and each one has the equal number of IP addresses, subnet mask, subnet as well. Okay, what will the subnet mask, by the way? Sorry, 255, 255, 255. 2 bits, 2 bits we borrowed, 128 plus 64, 192. So subnet mask will be, look at this, for all of them, subnet mask will be, because we borrowed 2 bits, right, guys? So whenever we borrow 2 bits, these 2 bits are now part of the network portion. Now you see this, these are three, there are 3 network here. So 192.168.1.1, 192.168.165, 128. So this is how you divided the network. So look at this, how we now calculate this. So these 2 bits are now part of the first network. Calculate of the first number, calculate the number of hosts. This is the now 6 bits remaining. 64 minus 2 will be 62 hosts. That's clear. Then the network, this is the network address. First IP will be 1.1, and then this is the network now, 62. The broadcast IP will be 63 when the host portion will be 1111. The next one, that's how we calculate here. So you can see here 4 networks, each of them. This is the 192, 168, 162, 163. The next one will be start from 164, 64. 65 is the first IP, the last IP 126 and 127. And 128, 129, and this is how we, okay?